Special thanks to Ninja Red for providing us with today's MSM Draw. Submit a drawing prompt with the hashtag MSM Draw in this video for a chance for it to be drawn in the next one. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode in the Monster Bio-July series. Or actually, it's Bio-August now. Bio-September. At any rate, we're working through a lineup of monster biology episodes regardless of delays and hangups, so don't worry y'all, I see you in the comments. Let's jump right into today's episode.
Alright, for our next edition of Monster Bio-July, Bio-September, Bio-August, whatever it is, we got magical monsters. It's interesting how we got two magical monsters in a row. No way, we got Knucklehead. Alright, this is going to be a fun one.
We're going to begin by immediately calling out Knucklehead on its fashion choices. There are many reasons to believe that this monster is wearing a wooden mask. From the physical appearance, we can see that the face sprites move in a way that suggests that they are slotted together, one piece over another. When the Knucklehead raises its arms for a particularly vigorous strike, we can see where the mask ends and peer into its mouth. A black void in lieu of a mouth with teeth hint at the fact that the orifice may extend deeper than initially thought, validating the theory that this monster indeed wears a mask. We can also see that the skin around the eyes is a different shade of brown, showing through the eye holes. This is the true skin color of the Knucklehead's head. Additionally, we can observe the green leaf-like protrusions on the top of the monster's head. Although one can speculate that they are simply leaves attached to the top of the mask, examining the Knucklehead's egg leads us to a different conclusion. You see, the leaves on the egg extend down into the center of the ring of wood. This means that if there is a surface down within the egg, the leaves attach to it rather than the wood. So this implies that the leaves are actually green feathers, or the MSM term feathers, attached to the top of the head behind the mask. We can look to the cube hands, Knucklehead's concept form, to confirm that it not only wears a mask, but also has the feathers directly attached to the head. One other note is that on the egg, the wood wraps around the front and the back. So if we ever were to see the back of a Knucklehead, we can assume that it would have some sort of backplate as well to cover its backside. Or perhaps it shoved its entire body into a hollow log in order to cover its sides as well, as per the egg's design. My final observation is the wood, being a sort of manufactured mask, is very probable within the lore of the Knucklehead. The monster is very dexterous with its giant sausage fingers, canonically excelling at embroidery and modeling small clay figurines. It's entirely possible that the artsy monster created its own mask. But what for? Well, we'll get to that eventually. Putting the mask aside, literally, we can focus on this mon's beautiful face. The Knucklehead's wooden facade hints at the fact that it has an underbite, which is a dental condition when the jawbone protrudes out from the rest of the skull, giving the face the classic caveman look. I included a couple of front incisors, as well as some lower jaw canines to break up the monotony of the Knucklehead's face. In reality, we have no idea of how the Knucklehead's tooth placement looks like, so consider this artistic liberty. When it comes to the skin color of the Knucklehead, we can go off of two visual clues. Firstly, the brown skin around the eyes, and secondly, the fact that we can see the gray hands fade into the brown wrinkly skin and connect to the head behind the mask. I included some cracks and scuff marks to keep with the continuity of the Knucklehead's, knuckles. Any artist can tell you that drawing hands can be a pain. I did not relish painting this part of the Knucklehead. When one looks closely at the Knucklehead's hands, they might assume that they are merely intricately shaped blocks of a stone-like material. However, because the bio states that the Knucklehead is a connoisseur of craftsmanship, an artisan of artistry, a master of pieces, a saint of paint, what was I saying? Oh, yes. The Knucklehead must have very dexterous fingers in order to be adept at small crafts it enjoys. Keep in mind that the Knucklehead makes figurines for role-playing tabletop games, which most likely references Dungeons & Dragons. The figures are usually 1 inch tall, which are dwarfed by the Knucklehead's Gigantamasaurus hands. So the monster would have to have some very, very fine-tuned muscles in the fingers in order to control them with that level of precision. We can also assume that the Knucklehead has no legs or feet and uses all 4 limbs to move. Perhaps it's able to swing from the trees like some sort of demented version of a spider monkey. The other thing to note is the fact that the hands of the Knucklehead are light gray instead of the deep brown of the arms and facial skin. Let's disregard the green dust on the fists for now, as we'll cover that in a bit. The bio offers the tidbit of information that the Knucklehead possesses a level of strength nearly unmatched in all of the monster world. This is evidenced by the impact crater the monster leaves when pounding the ground with its fists. This power, combined with the fact that the Knucklehead is constantly abusing its hands, like its idle animation literally never plays on Sanctum, means that its hands are in a constant state of movement, deformation, and most importantly, vibration. In real life, constant vibration of the hands by means of power tools and construction equipment can cause a medical condition called hand-arm vibration, or HAV for short. Symptoms of HAV include the blanching of the hands, meaning that the constant strikes reduce blood flow and make the hands appear a paler or whitish color, exactly what we see with the Knucklehead. Additionally, HAV can cause the hands to naturally assume a fist shape, as the fingers automatically curl inwards when affected by HAV. I'm not sure if the design of the Knucklehead was intentionally created with hand and arm medical ailments in mind, but nonetheless, I am glad that it ended up in a place that scientifically makes sense. Now we can tackle a tricky part of the Knucklehead's anatomy: how exactly it can produce light whenever it slams its hands together. We have a couple of options, the first of which I am excited to walk y'all through. So remember in our recent Bulbo video when I talked about piezoelectricity, which is when certain materials can produce electricity when compressed or otherwise deformed? Well, to my surprise, we find quite a similar phenomenon occurring with the Knucklehead. However, instead of piezoelectricity, this monster is witness to triboluminescence, a way of producing light. Light is produced using triboluminescence by compressing, rubbing, or striking materials. I propose that the epidermis of the Knucklehead is triboluminescent, and that impacting its skin with anything hard enough would create light. Indeed, small amounts of triboluminescence have been observed with living flesh, like the generation of light around joints or while chewing food. These emissions are usually too small to be as noticeable as they are with the Knucklehead, so there also is the option that the skin of the monster is very rigid and composed of a clay-like material. This would explain the fracture lines in the fists of the monsters. Continual strikes to the skin have left it cracked. To support this theory, the bio states that the Knucklehead is golem-like. Golems, from Jewish folklore, are beings of clay or mud that are capable of movement. So it's most likely that the skin of this monster contains many features and materials that dried clay also does, as well as elements that luminesce when struck. This could be the reason why the Knucklehead wears a mask for hours at a time. It's to protect its skin that can be damaged from everyday life. This could also be why the Knucklehead prefers delicate and calm pastimes instead of using its immense strength in sports or athletics, because repeated high-stress actions could be damaging to the monster's health. There is also the theory that the green material on the Knucklehead is doing the luminescing. This also makes sense because both the material and the emanating rings of light are green. So what are our options here? Well, for one, there's the idea that the green is simply moss growing on the top sides of the rock-like fists. That means that the plants bioluminesce when they are agitated. However, there are no bioluminescent plants to our knowledge that naturally occur. There have been genetically modified plants with the genes of glow-in-the-dark fungi, but such an experiment cannot be naturally found growing in the wild. The other option is that the dusting of green is some sort of mineral powder. Either copper or some sort of phosphor would work, as they both have been known to glow bright green when their molecules were active. The Knucklehead strikes could create some static electricity through friction, which would excite the atoms of the powder and cause them to glow green on the visible spectrum. Conversely, it could also generate some heat from the friction and cause the material to glow red hot. Green hot. The rings emanating from the fists would then make sense, because the powder would get launched into the air by the shockwave as it started glowing. Both the powder and the moss are excellent theories, but one flaw I can see is the light circles appearing underneath the fist, where there's no green coloration, only on the top. So because of that, I say that the Bioluminescence theory makes the most sense, as it's the point of contact that produced the light, and that's what we see occurring in the playing animation. We can take a page out of the powder theory's book by saying that with each strike, some chips of the stone-like fists, or perhaps it's flaking and dead skin cells, are blasted away by the shockwave created while luminescing to produce the green ring. And the Knucklehead doesn't have to worry about its supply of plants or green powder running low because part of your bodily function is replacing skin cells. So the Knucklehead would have an infinite amount of fist, for lack of better imagery, to create the green light show with. And as for the green stuff, it's most likely just moss. So isn't that neat? Our final postulation combines aspects of all three initial theories. Now that was some intense speculation. Are you still with me? Because with that, we are done. And let's roll the final footage. Welcome to Far-Flung Fabrications, where I create concept rare and epic forms of today's monster. No, we are not doing that today. We have yet to see a rare or epic Knucklehead, but we can already get an idea of its color scheme. Rare light monsters are confirmed to emit light of the opposite color as their common counterparts. Gob makes red, rare Gob makes blue. Tutu makes yellow, and the rare makes pink. Flores makes the entire rainbow, so it would make sense that the rare only does black and white. Following this theory, we can conclude that the rare Knucklehead would produce reddish-purplish rings of light, so his general color scheme might follow suit. The mask, of course, would be subject to large changes. I'm thinking horns, or something different about the jaw. Epics are more bold in their thematic changes. We could capitalize on the golem-like aspects of the Knucklehead and make a metallic version that would not be out of place on Gold Island. I took inspiration from the Aztec and Mayan architectures. Maybe we can go for some sort of alabaster statue as well. It really brings to mind the ancient Greek statues, alongside the fact that the head leaves are the iconic censoring fig leaf. So we've reached the end of today's episode. Thank you all very much for watching, and don't forget to share your ideas and thoughts in the comments. I love reading each and every one of them. You have been watching Crutanium, and I will see you all later.